Hey everybody, my name is Taylor Glenn and this is my channel Taylor Tries, where I teach you everything there is to know about juggling. At least everything that I know, which is quite a bit. So let's jump into today's tutorial, which is on Kotaros Twist. It looks like this. Before we jump into it, just give me a second to thank all of my patrons over on Patreon. You make this tutorial possible for everybody. I know it's one you've been asking for a while. I also want to take this opportunity to tell you about a new project that I just launched called the Juggler's Guide. It's an all-inclusive resource for jugglers. The biggest feature is my new pattern database, where you can find patterns and tricks that you want to learn with prerequisites, related tricks, variations, tutorial links. There's a brand new store with our brand new professional beanbags, as well as a whole bunch of apparel. And if you're a supporter of the Juggler's Guide website, you can even save patterns and even update your own personal records or notes for each pattern. As a supporter, you also automatically unlock the slow motion clips for each of the patterns that have those available, which is a lot of them. The Juggler's Guide is still pretty new. There are a whole bunch of features that are being planned, so hopefully it will just continue to grow. Thank you so much to everyone who is already supporting me over there and supporting me on Patreon. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, let's get juggling. That's why you're here. Let's do it. All right, Kotaros Twist. Let's look at this pattern. It gets its name from a juggler named Kotaro from Japan. Kotaros Twist is what we would call a clay motion pattern, or a non-continuous pattern. Basically, that just means that at some point in the pattern, there is a stop where nothing is being thrown. Kotaros Twist is also typically done in the style of micro juggling. That just means that it's done intentionally very small and fast. We will learn it a little bigger, but over time you're gonna wanna try to shrink it down to really fit the micro juggling style. Let's look at what's actually happening in this pattern. As I said, Kotaros Twist has a stop in it because it's a non-continuous pattern. So it basically has two main parts. There's the first part where that leaked column ball is thrown up and another ball is tossed underneath it and then up to create that L shape. The second part involves a twist, which is where the term Kotaros Twist comes from, as you drop another ball down that L shape and back over underneath that column ball. Kotaros Twist is also one-sided, so it doesn't alternate hands. There is one hand that is always doing this L shape. I recommend that you use your dominant hand for this. If that didn't make a ton of sense to you, don't worry. I'm gonna cover the pattern step by step and break it down for you, and I'll cover some common problems and troubleshooting that you might encounter, as well as just ways to make it look better. Because a lot of people can do this pattern, but they don't make it look good. Make sure you watch the entire tutorial for that. So what do you have to know already in order to learn Kotaros Twist? The biggest prerequisite I recommend is having a fundamental grasp of clay motion basic patterns. Things like the clay motion bounce, thumb drops, thumb pops, the clay motion box. A lot of the moves are the same in Kotaros Twist as those patterns. If you don't know how to do those, they're really fun. I have tutorials on them. I'll link those in the description. It's not required, but it's recommended. All right, step one ball. The first thing I want you to do is practice the shape of the L. This is not a very hard step. We're not gonna spend a lot of time on it. So start with the ball in your dominant hand, shoulder width apart, and then do a little tiny toss over to the other hand. As you do that, we're going to bring our hand over with it. So boom, and now we're gonna throw up, and as we do, we're gonna catch that ball as it reaches its peak. Obviously, your hand should follow the ball as you do that. When you do this, try not to let it peak and then start to fall. It's not this, it's that. So quick recap, over, up. And this is where the pause happens. Then we're going to twist our hand over and then kind of drop the ball towards your thumb, like that. And as you do that, you're going to bring your hand down with it. We're always gonna follow the ball that is moving with our hand. Then you're going to go back to your starting position. So to recap, over, up, twist, down, over. Not too hard, right? Okay, let's move on to the real meat of this trick. 2 balls. Okay, 2, woohoo. It rhymes. We're gonna put them in our dominant hand, and for this pattern, we're gonna hold them in horizontal grip, which is really common in clay motion non-continuous patterns. You're basically going to hold one ball with your thumb and your index finger, then the other one is gonna go where the rest of the fingers are, up towards the top. You don't want it to come back towards the palm. The balls are gonna be parallel to your body. Once you've got that grip, we're gonna do what is known as a thumb pop. It's a non-continuous move that you will learn in those prerequisite tutorials. A thumb pop is basically, you're gonna turn your hand towards the other hand, and as you do that, you're gonna push the other ball with the thumb towards that hand. That's a thumb pop. So after we do that, we're holding the other ball like this, which is just really awkward and feels terrible. So we're gonna wanna move that ball to replace the one that we just threw, the one in this thumb pocket. So to get that ball over to the other spot, your hand is turned over. I recommend reaching your thumb over towards the pinky, and then as you turn your hand over, you're going to roll the ball into that thumb pocket spot. Then we can replace the ball that we just threw into the pinky spot. So just to recap, we're gonna do thumb pop, our hand is upside down, we reach that thumb over and then open our hand, roll the ball over, and replace. This does not have to be a very big move. It is literally less than 6 inches of toss. Eventually, what we wanna do is speed that up. So we're going to pop, and as we're opening our hand and rolling that ball over, we're gonna at the same time be tossing the other ball back. 1, 2. This is super important. You have to get comfortable with this motion. Then you can move that hand with the thumb pop so that you're following that ball. Once you feel like you can do this thumb pop and back pretty well, let's try to then get the rest of that L shape. So we're gonna do that same thumb pop that we just did, but now instead of throwing the ball back to the starting position, we're going to throw it up just like we did in the first exercise, creating that L. The problem is now we have a ball there. So this is where that little move comes in. So we're gonna go here, and then we're gonna throw that ball up, and as we do, we're gonna roll this ball over and try to claw that ball. The key to this really is, as you thumb pop, to just move your thumb with that push, and then it'll just be right there to move the ball over. Pop, claw. And of course, remember that first exercise we did? As we do the pop, we're gonna bring our hand over. We're not just gonna pop it and then go straight up to this spot. Create the L with the dominant hand. Notice that the ball that I threw from the thumb spot is going to end in the pinky because I moved the other ball over. It's very important. So once you've clawed that ball, you're mostly there. Next, you're gonna do a little twist so that your hand is facing up. The nice thing about that twist is, for some people, if you're having a hard time with this claw catch, that twist serves as a sort of cradle for that ball. So you don't even have to really claw catch it. You can just kind of scoop it into that position. This is really useful, especially if you have little hands. And that really is the goal. We eventually want to get to the point where it is scooping into the twist. It should be a continuous motion. So it's not going to be here, here, here. It's going to go over, twist. Work on that a bit. Eventually you're gonna wanna get this super comfortable, but get to the point where you can do it pretty well. It doesn't have to be perfect right now because we are gonna go into the next step and then you can practice them together. Okay, next step. Now we're up in this really awkward position at the top of our L. You're gonna drop the ball from the thumb and the index finger just through that little hole there. And as you do that, you're going to bring your hand down with it and then roll this ball over as you replace it. If you do this over and over again, the balls should alternate. So it's red, white. Great, so we just learned the 2 most important steps. So now we're gonna smush them together and make one big, ultra helpful step that is basically the entire pattern. Without that extra ball, it's just making it more confusing. So first we did that thumb pop, catch, twist. Now we're set up for that next step, which is drop, and then back to the beginning. So it's pop, up, twist, drop, over. Pop, up, twist, drop, over. We're just combining those 2 steps. Then over time, we just want to make that quicker. Bum, 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 bum. You can start trying to think about that micro aspect and get it really small. And ideally, you want to get to the point where that twist is perfectly leading into the drop. So essentially, we're catching, twisting, dropping. It's one continuous motion. You can just work on that if you want. That's a good little exercise, little bonus. Doesn't get its own step because I don't feel like it. But that is the goal. It is basically to make this as quick as possible. Really spend time on this step. Spend all your time on this part. Do it while you're on the phone, do it while you're watching TV, Do it just all the time. This is it. It's gonna be worth it. Once you get that, let's add the third ball. All right, we've got a third ball. It wants to play. It's not gonna fully get to play because the other two are still gonna do their own thing, but it's gonna kind of hang out on the side and pretend like it's playing. It is a leaked ball. That's what that means. So we're gonna start the same way with the 2 in our dominant hand like we just did, and the other one's gonna be in our other hand. So we're gonna start like this. You might notice that this hand is not over here. That's because this is gonna do a column throw. And it can't be here because this is where my L is gonna go. These 2 balls are taking up that space. We're gonna do the exact same move that we just did with the 2 balls. They're not changing at all. So really trust your muscle memory here. Don't try to overthink it. The only thing that's different is as we do this first thumb pop, we're gonna throw that ball up so it gets out of the way. So the first move is that throw as we do the thumb pop and bring our hand over. But now that ball that we just threw, it's coming down. And with Kotaros Twist, the non-dominant hand, the one that throws at the beginning, only ever has 1 ball in it. It's not allowed to collect 2 like the other hand. That ball is gonna come down, which means we have to get rid of the ball that we just popped into that hand. Luckily, we've already worked on that. That ball is gonna get thrown up and become the top of the L that we claw and twist into the rest of the pattern. We just have to make sure we start that before this one comes down. So you're gonna do that thumb pop and then immediately get rid of that ball and throw it up to do the little twist. Pop, up, twist. This should feel really familiar, right? This is the step we did. These 2 should be the same balls and the other one's still just sad all by itself. A common mistake I see is throwing that ball on the inside. It needs to go on the outside. So this ball should be in the middle as you go around it. If you get really stuck on this step, especially getting that throw out, just work on getting the pop with the throw. Don't worry about catching it. Once you get comfortable with getting rid of that ball, start adding that claw twist in there. If you're having a hard time moving the ball over with that much time pressure, go back and practice those previous steps, get them faster without the pressure of that extra ball. Great, once you've done that first step, we're gonna do the second half of the trick. So in this spot, right after the twist, there is a natural stop. So you have time when you're learning to actually stop and think about what you're doing. We're gonna do that drop as we bring our hand down and over, right? But again, we have a ball here, and this hand is only allowed to have 1 ball in it at any time. So we're going to throw that ball as we drop this one. Now it should feel familiar what comes next. You're going to drop and then come over before that ball comes down. So the first one, we did over, up, twist. Now we're doing drop, over. Practice that over and over again and utilize that stop in the middle. Take your time to think about what you're doing. And if you can do that, you've done Kotaros Twist. That is the pattern. It's the whole thing. Of course, you need to make it look good, and usually that takes some time, and we're gonna cover that next. But if you can still just do these steps, you are doing the entire pattern of Kotaros Twist. Once you can do those steps pretty comfortably, we can work on trying to clean it up and make it look like that beautiful, sweet micro juggling trick. If you're ready for that, let's go on to the next section. So, you know Kotaros Twist, but it just doesn't look good. It's a very common problem, I see it a lot. When this pattern is done right, it looks so very good, and when it's done wrong, it's just kind of fine. All right, the first thing that is gonna make Kotaros Twist look better is to make it a micro juggling trick, which means you gotta make it fast and small. It makes people very impressed and they go, ooh, what's that trick? That's amazing, will you do a tutorial on it? So you wanna go really fast. That first thumb pop up into that L-shaped throw, we just wanna boom, boom. Just the second you pick it up, you throw it immediately. Boom, boom. And of course, that is the same for the drop. Boom, boom. So you really wanna get those throws little. If you're throwing it up towards your eyes, try to squish it down, get it as tiny as you can. Especially with this throw back and forth. Every time I teach this, people make this huge throw. It doesn't need to be huge. It shouldn't be huge. It should be little tiny throws. Even if everything else we're about to cover looks really terrible and you don't work on those things, if you make it low and fast, it should at least look kind of impressive. This is how I got good at doing it fast, was just doing it with 2 over and over and over again. You also don't need to throw it very hard. You're not gonna increase the speed that much by trying to slam it super hard. It doesn't make enough of a difference. It's just gonna make it harder to catch. Try to be nice and calm with it, especially if you find yourself fumbling a lot. It might be because you're throwing really hard. Next thing I see that makes this pattern look worse, I mentioned it at the beginning of this tutorial. It's when people wait for the L ball to peak and then they grab it. So when you do that throw up, you need to be catching it in the upswing. It should not peak and then I'm catching it. That will slow it down and make it look like crap. Catch it before it peaks. All right, the next common problem I see that makes this pattern look like crap, the ball in the pinky spot, they really try to grab it super tight against their palm. Kotaros Twist really benefits from everything being in a nice line. Loosen your grip on it, loosen up the hand, try to imagine there's a ball in your palm that's preventing that from being pushed back. This is especially true on that claw catch. People will claw and use their whole hand, don't grab it super tight. If the ball is small enough, like the beanbags I'm using, I can literally claw catch it in that position without grasping onto it into my palm. So it's fine. If you're using a really big ball or your hands are smaller, that might be a really hard catch for you. I mentioned this earlier. The proper solution is not to try to grab it really hard so it's on your palm. The solution is to try to cradle into the catch. Even with a huge ball, I should be able to cradle that and still have room up here. So there you have it, Kotaros Twist. One of my favorite 3-ball tricks, one of the most requested tutorials. I really hope this helped you learn it as well as like clean it up and make it look better. If this tutorial did help you, I would appreciate just a little bit of help back by giving this video a like. It really does help other people find this tutorial and it helps out my channel. And if you're really into juggling, which if you're learning this pattern, you probably are, consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. I have a whole bunch of other juggling content, and make sure you turn on the little notification bell so that you get told every time I come out with an awesome, helpful video. If you want to go the extra mile, you can of course support me over on Patreon or become a supporter on the Juggler's Guide. Both of those will help me out. Thanks again to everyone who supports me on Patreon, who supports the Juggler's Guide. You all make this possible. And thanks to Kotaro for making this great trick. All right, thanks for watching. And drop. Like this, if you can get this, I tend to, sorry, especially getting, really? That light is very bright. Am I getting shinier? I feel like I'm getting shinier. Oh yeah, so pretty. Talking too much.